Hey there, listeners. Welcome to PTK Pulse, your one-stop shop for insights, inspiration, and everything PTK. Brought to you by Alpha Theta Omicron at Rio Salado College, we're diving deep into the world around us, one interview at a time. For our 2024 Honors in Action project, we're on a mission to connect with our community and showcase their stories. Join us as we chat with folks from all walks of life, learning about their passions and experiences. So, grab your headphones or turn up the volume, sit back, and let the stories come to you. This is PTK Pulse. Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the Food Tells a Story portion of our podcast. Today, I'm talking with Kate Packer, a team building enthusiast with more than 10 years of experience in leading and developing educational programs. Originally born in Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan, we are lucky enough to have Kate as an administrator and program developer here at Rio Salado College. Kate, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Great to hear. Now, did I get that right? 10 years of experience in developing educational programs?
It's more like 20.
20 now. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I have been with Rio Salado since 2002.
Awesome. Oh my gosh. So what inspired you to first start teaching?
I started teaching back in my home country, Kazakhstan, and education was not something that I planned to get into. I really liked foreign languages, and I studied foreign languages. I worked as an interpreter at first, and then I found a position at the university teaching English, and I was very curious about it, so I went for it, and I really liked it. And when I moved here to the States, I did not start working at a college at first because teaching foreign languages, teaching ESL was my goal. You need to know life in the country. So I took a little bit to get to know US, and then I started teaching. But by that time, I already knew that education was something that was mine, was for me.
I love that. Oh my gosh. So how many languages do you speak?
I'm fluent only in two, Russian and English right now.
Very nice. Cool. So when did you move to the US?
In 1999.
1999. Okay, cool. So you've been here a minute. Nice.
Yeah.
So let's start talking about the cuisine. So Central Asian cuisine has such a strong connection to nomadic traditions. Would you agree?
Definitely.
Oh, for sure. Okay, so which dishes, in your opinion, best reflect the history and resilience in Russian and Kazakh culture?
So Kazakhstan is the last country where I lived before I moved here. I'm a military kid, so I'm a nomad myself because of my parents. So, and not literal, I mean, we did not live in a yurt the way nomads in Kazakhstan lived or still live. We lived in cities, but still moving around. I've moved over 30 times in my life. And Kazakhstan is a multicultural country. And cuisines in there, they definitely show how multicultural it is. I grew up with Kazakh cuisine, Russian cuisine, Ukrainian cuisine, German cuisine, Korean cuisine, Chinese cuisine. The list is very long. In terms of what in Kazakh culture shows the nomadic side of the culture is, well, you would need to know more about Kazakhstan to understand, because sometimes people are like, oh my gosh, how can people eat this? In Kazakhstan, horse meat is something that is pretty common. Horse milk is something that is pretty common. And not only in Kazakhstan, but also Kyrgyzstan, where I was born. And if you think about that as a horse, you immediately go like, oh. But when you think about what a horse means for a Kazakh, you don't have the same reaction. In Kazakh culture, horses were everything. They were your transportation, they were your livelihood, they were your food. It depended on the horse too. Some horses were raised for food, some horses were raised to be, used for transportation. Some horses were, prized possessions. Some of them were your friend. So yeah, horse meat is very interesting. If anybody ever has any problems with cholesterol, it's medicinal. So it's very interesting. But there are many dishes that now people make not only out of horse meat, but actually other meats that are very traditional in Kazakh cuisine.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So like horses they're more than just transportation. They're like everything. Like
They're absolutely everything for Kazakhs.
that's great. Okay. So yeah, many dishes have symbolic meanings or are tied to specific life events for some people. Are there any dishes that you specifically associate with milestones like weddings, births, holidays that you personally had in your family?
We had too many dishes to have, like there are some dishes that you eat more frequently, different, I guess. So for me, something that we ate a lot and it was not associated with an event, but it was more of something that brings comfort to you is different soups. And soups that we ate there, they're very different from soups here. Here they're thicker, oftentimes cream based. So which is also delicious. Soups back home, they were more lighter broth based. And one of the like the beet soup borscht that everybody knows from Russian cuisine or Ukrainian cuisine. They are something, and everybody has their own recipe for borscht, so they differ. So my borscht is basically my dad's borscht, but it's something that we ate a lot more, and somehow with my friends here, they're like, oh, Kate is all about soup and salad. She's all about soup and salad. And I was like, what's going on? Everybody about soup and salad. But then I noticed that no, this is not something that is as commonly eaten here, especially during hot months. So, and it was so funny one time when I went back home and it was pretty hot. Kazakhstan has very hot summers. I was just walking outside and there was a family, husband and wife, and a little kiddo standing there. And the husband's like, oh my goodness, can't wait to get home. I want some borscht. I'm like, it's just I'm from here. I'm not crazy.
Oh, that's so great. So borscht is kind of that like nostalgic kind of soup, that food that kind of brings you back a little bit.
It is something that is part of it's a staple for me even here. I have it in my fridge right now.
Yeah, like from all cultures, everybody has that one food that's kind of just like
yeah.
We love it.
The taste of home, right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, how do you think the environment, the terrain in the region where you grew up has shaped traditional ingredients in cooking? Like the things that were grown, like you said, horses were a common food that was eaten. Are there any other maybe crops that grew, that type of thing that were included in food that you don't really see here in the US?
Right now, everything is so global.
Yeah.
It's horse meat. I think it just has horses have an emotional attachment. I don't think you can buy it here, but neither am I looking, to be honest. I don't like horse meat because it is a very dry kind of meat, and I cannot make like kazu or bishbarmak, the Kazakh dishes. Well, actually, I can make bishbarmak. I don't know. I just don't make it.
I see.
But in terms of like what's very, very common is like you can still get it with ease here. And I'll speak about Russian cuisine. Like potatoes and cabbage, they're practically in everything. And it is interesting now that I live here, I can't even picture myself back home without having a lot of potatoes in the fridge. Well, not the fridge, actually, I don't store them in the fridge, but in like storage in the pantry. But here, like right now, I don't have any potatoes that are uncooked. And it's sometimes I go without them for a significant amount of time. It's very interesting. But in terms of terrain, thinking about Kazakhstan is an enormous country. I would say Texas a couple of times. That's how big it is. And it's open space. It's steps. I'm a child of open space. I realized it as an adult here. And I stayed in Arizona because of the climate, because it's dry, a lot of air, a lot of space. I love trees, but I miss the open sky very quickly if I am surrounded by trees for too long. So with Kazakhs being nomads, they mainly ate, like, for example, I mentioned horse meat, right? So that's horse milk, even. So they would milk horses, they would drink that milk. That's an alcoholic beverage, actually. It's drunk, fermented. And it has a very interesting taste. I haven't had it in, gosh, 3 decades. So, but crops, when you change places, you don't grow as many crops. So, it's definitely different.
A nomadic lifestyle for sure, yeah. So if you were to be introducing native cuisine to somebody that's unfamiliar with it, so like what dish would you choose to tell the story of your culture? Like the number one on the list.
You see, I am a product of very, very many cultures. I don't even know
Yeah.
where I'm from, so it's hard to pick number one. So my Russian side, I would definitely, it's always borscht.
Okay.
My Kazakhstani side, it's besparmak.
Oh, okay. The sparmak. What is that?
Yeah. So people can say it beshparmak or besparmak, and basically it's meat, and Russians changed the recipe a little bit. It can be any kind of meat. I have even seen it made with chicken, which a Kazakh probably would have a heart attack. Like, what did you do to besparmak? So, but mainly it's greasier kind of meat, and it's dough, pieces, square or rectangular pieces of dough that are very, very thin. And you make very, very thick, flavorful broth. And then you put those pieces of dough in it very slowly, so the top layer of oil kind of coats the dough, and the pieces don't stick together. So when you serve it, you drink broth separately, and pieces of dough are layered around the meat in the center of a large platter. It is a delicious dish. And as I said at the beginning, sometimes people, when it's ethnic foods, they're like reserved.
Yeah.
This is a dish that people usually feel very safe around, and it's delicious. Russians added potatoes and onions to that, and they put potatoes and onions in the middle of the meat. So it's kind of like, it looks like a pie. So potatoes and onions surrounded by meat and surrounded by dough.
That sounds so good. Oh my gosh, you can never go wrong with meat and potatoes, I feel like. It's
Yeah.
awesome combination. Wonderful. How do you see younger generations adapting to these traditional recipes that you grew up with today? Like you said before with the chicken, and people in Kazakhstan would be like, "What did you do to bisparmek?" Is that how you pronounce it?
Bisparmak, yeah.
Yeah, like
Um, right now in Kazakhstan, I think Kazakh things, they are coming back more. During the Soviet Union time, Russians dominated, and it's not a good thing. I mean, my family is an example, right? We're Russian, but we were in Kazakhstan because my dad was in the military. So, and the percentage of Russians in Kazakhstan was higher at one point. But right now, I think that the percentage of Kazakhs in Kazakhstan is higher. There has been a lot of migration, a lot of Jewish people moved, a lot of Germans people moved, a lot of Russians moved, a lot of Ukrainians moved, a lot of, you name it, Koreans, Chinese, Tartars, Chechens. Like we were a melting pot, and we still are, but it's a lot of Kazakhs, they like from Mongolia moved to Kazakhstan, and Kazakhs from small villages moved into cities. And that brought a lot of traditional foods back in the cities. So, and because of that, new restaurants opened. I know that sometimes I don't live there, and the cultural tensions, I don't experience them. But when I travel back, I experience the food. And there's so many more good restaurants. And I noticed that the recipes we did, being a culture, like a melting pot of cultures, sometimes you find like kimchi, for example. I grew up eating kimchi. It's something that I have a recipe for. I love. It's just, yeah, it's delicious to me. But, it's not unusual to find kimchi mixed into something that is Kazakh and Russian. Right now, I think it's a little bit more separated. And because of that, it's you get to taste something that has 100, 200,000 year history, a dish like that in its original form.
Yeah, just a different experience.
So it's not changing to like newer forms as much. It's actually changing to its older forms. That's what I've observed. It doesn't mean that it's 100% the case.
Okay, cool. Very nice. All right. So, what does it mean to you personally to keep these culinary traditions alive? And are there recipes or ingredients that you feel are particularly important to pass down? Like, we cannot lose these.
For my family,
Mhm.
I think in terms of one cultural tradition, I'm the wrong person to speak to, Sarah, because I am a product of very many cultures, and I didn't even know when I grew up. For me, they were just my traditions. That's what I grew up with, and the mix of languages that like it's not even a mix of languages. It's the mix of words that we used. Somebody who came one time to visit us from Russia asked my dad, like, is your wife like you're speaking? This is not Russian, because we mix in words from different languages because they were just local for us, and that's Kazakhstan for you. So, and because of that, there are a couple of recipes that my family likes, and everything goes by what my kids eat. So, and one dish is borscht, and it's a Russian dish, a Slavic dish. It's not even Russians can't own it because it's all Slavs, Poles, Ukrainians, Belarusians, Russians. We all have recipes of that. So, but that's one recipe that I would pass on. And girls, actually, my daughters have cooked it already with me. And another one that they really like and eat is plov, and that's an Uzbek dish.
Really? Oh,
Yeah, and it's a rice dish.
nice.
Surprisingly, there are no Kazakh dishes in that, kitchen repertoire at home,
Yeah.
because sometimes it's, the ingredients are hard to come by.
Yeah. And you said it goes by what the kids, what they want, what they'll eat. So yeah, that concludes all the questions I have today. If you have anything else to add, this would be the time to do so.
I really like what you're doing. It's interesting. For me, totally different. I thought we were going to talk about civic engagement and things like that, but I really uh, like talking about cultures, and that made me think once again how I think nobody belongs to one culture anymore. The world has become very small. So, and for me, definitely that's uh, being a military person, having been born in one place, raised in multiple other places, having moved around so much. Definitely, I can't, like, there's in my little notebook with recipes, there are recipes from all over the world, and they're based on what just stuck with my family, and right now the most common recipes for this year that we've used was my Italian coworkers, a couple of Chinese, like fried rice, for example, that my kids cook. That plov is an Uzbek dish. There's a Russian dish, the red cabbage. It's a German dish. It's just thinking about it from the perspective of a culture and the roots is very interesting. I didn't even give it much thought before. So thank you.
Yeah,
That was good.
story. Yeah, it's great to tell these stories because maybe some people who don't feel like they belong to just one culture, one label, can kind of hear like, oh yeah, but that's okay. Like it's really cool to not belong to just one box. So I really appreciate your perspective and thank you so much. That concludes our interview. Have a good day, everybody. Thank you for listening. That is all for this episode of PTK Pulse. We hope you enjoyed hearing from our special guest. As this is for our research project, please help us out by leaving a comment below mentioning what you liked about this episode, things we could improve on, and what else you'd like to hear from in the future episodes. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Alpha Theta Omicron for more updates and behind-the-scenes content. And stay tuned for our next episode where we'll keep the storytelling going. Thank you for listening.